Now, it's believed that some 50 babies each year are born to surrogate mothers and then handed over to the parents who will raise them for the rest of their lives. Under the present law, the father is entitled to paternity leave, but the woman who takes over responsibility is not allowed maternity leave, although a woman who adopts a baby does have that right. Well, Lisa is Britain's newest commissioning mother, as it's known. Her daughter was born less than 24 hours ago. I spoke to her this morning and asked her how the relationship with her baby Zoe and the surrogate Jane, who gave birth to her, is going.
Well, it's just a completely amazing experience, really, from start to finish. That we met through a group, and the motto is friendship first, and so you wouldn't go into this relationship if you weren't friends first. And I just watched my amazing friend give birth to my amazing daughter.
What role did you have during the birth?
Well, we were just kind of trying not to get in the way, trying not to break anything, holding on for moral support if needed, and my husband cut the cord, and we were just there, really. It was brilliant, absolutely amazing. And I stayed in the hospital as well overnight to take care of baby Zoe, and we've had a girly night together.
How is it going to be to take Zoe home and leave Jane behind?
Well, we knew that was going to happen all along, and obviously we're just going to be as sensitive as we can to Jane, because this is such an amazing thing that she's done for us. But she loves it. This is what she loves to do. She's so good at it. She's just an amazing person. And we'll be looking after her, and we'll be doing the very best we can to make sure our baby has just the best experience we can give her, really.
How much do you think you'll stay in contact with her as Zoe grows older?
Well, Zoe's going to be very well aware of who Auntie Jane and Uncle Steve are, and they'll be part of our extended family, to be honest. We don't want it any other way, unless we do their heads in. She's saying no.
Now, there's clearly a problem for you in that you're not entitled to any maternity leave as a commissioning mother, as the term goes. Yes. How are you going to manage with Zoe in the coming months? Because you're a teacher by profession.
Yes, I am. I've been lucky in that my school have supported me for time off to come away for midwife appointments and to go to the hospital and during the pregnancy, and they haven't said I can't have anything at all, which I know some mothers to be do through surrogacy. Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, it adds to the stress prior to the arrangement. You know, it does seem strange that when you have a baby, all you want to do is spend your time looking after baby, and you're not quite treated the same as any other first-time mum.
I was talking to Lisa with Jane and Zoe in the background. So what should the law provide? Should an intended mother have the same rights as an adoptive one? Well, Natalie Gamble is a solicitor who specialises in fertility issues, and Kim Palmer is from Surrogacy UK. Her daughter Mimi was born to a surrogate. Kim, how did you manage when Mimi was born and you had to work?
Well, I managed to get adoption leave from my employer, which was extraordinarily generous of them. Thankfully, I had an extremely good line manager, Elspeth, who managed to help me approach HR. But I have to say I'm very much in the minority there. And I think often about what would have happened had I not had that time with Mimi. It was extraordinary to have that 6 months off with Mimi, to feel normal, because of course you don't feel normal when you're infertile, because everybody is doing, or it feels like everybody is doing, the one thing you really can't do. So to have that time was absolutely precious, and I induced lactation to be able to breastfeed Mimi. So again, it was very important for me to have that time at home with her and have that lovely bonding time.
Natalie, why in principle is it different for a commissioning mother where an adoptive mother does have rights to leave?
Well, essentially, in surrogacy arrangements, you don't qualify for either adoption or maternity leave because of the way the rules work. So it's because you haven't been pregnant and you haven't been matched with a child by an adoption agency, and you just sort of fall outside the scope of the way the rules work. And, you know, obviously this is enormously difficult. And in practice, as we've heard, some employers do offer discretionary leave, but there isn't a right to that. So people are faced with either having to use holiday or unpaid leave, or even perhaps having to leave their jobs. And this is something which is very difficult, and it's very difficult for employers as well, because even if they do offer discretionary leave, they don't then have the same rights to claim back the maternity pay that they would otherwise be able to claim from the government.
Now, Kim, the Department of Business, obviously we talked to them about this, and they told us that they've looked at it, but because surrogacy arrangements, and I'm quoting them, are by definition unofficial and often informal, we don't believe satisfactory documentary evidence could be provided at an appropriate time which would give the employer or the taxpayer certainty of entitlement. Now, they do have a point, don't they?
I do understand what they're saying, in that the first sort of documentary evidence that they will be looking at would actually be the parental order, which we all have to go through to make the child legally ours. And that doesn't happen until several weeks after the birth. However, I think a lot of women in my situation would actually be happy for maternity leave to start at that point, and perhaps the battle to get it a little bit earlier could happen at a later date. But Jenny, could I just say one thing, that this morning I spent a bit of time looking through one of our threads on the Surrogacy UK message boards, looking at a thread on maternity leave. And what really comes through strongly is that employers have benefited from the fact that we couldn't have children. We're able to work the extremely long hours, we're able to work the weekends, and they have gained an awful lot from us. Then when we need a little bit of something back, often people just don't get that, and I think that's wholly unfair.
So, Natalie, just to look at the way these parenting orders work, what exactly are the legal procedures that you have to go through as the mother of a baby born to a surrogate?
Well, English law provides that it's the woman who gives birth to a child who's treated as a legal mother at birth. So at birth, all the rights vest in the surrogate mother, and the commissioning mother then has to apply to the court, to the family courts, for a special kind of order which is designed specifically for surrogacy situations, called a parental order. And that reassigns motherhood from the surrogate back to her, and she then gets a new birth certificate naming her as the mother.
And what about the fathers involved? Because the surrogate may be married, the father who is going to bring up the baby may be the biological father or not. Where do they fit into all of this?
Well, this is where the law gets really fun and complicated, because the rules say that if the surrogate mother is married when she conceives, then it's her husband who's treated as the legal father rather than the commissioning father. And that is irrespective of whether the commissioning father is the biological father or not. And people often struggle to get their heads around this and sort of say, well, can't this be challenged with DNA evidence? And the answer to that is no. And it's because surrogacy births come about in an artificial way, and special rules apply to children who are conceived artificially. So essentially what happens in surrogacy situations is that the commissioning father is treated as a sperm donor. So even if he is the biological father, he doesn't have any legal status as a father if the surrogate is married. However, if the surrogate isn't married, then the natural rights of biological fatherhood follow. So if the commissioning father is the biological father, he's then treated as the legal father at birth.
So, presumably, both the commissioning mother and father can get themselves onto the birth certificate as the legal father and mother once the parenting order's gone through?
Yes, they can. And I mean, that's the object of the parental order, but it takes a number of months to go through. And during that intervening period, they can have no status as parents whatsoever, which is a very difficult position to be in. So,
Kim, what did you have to go through before Kim was officially yours? Mimi, rather. Sorry, you're Kim.
Well, this sort of time lag that Natalie Gamble's just mentioned there is it's quite a difficult time, because obviously you have the baby, but in some respects you don't have rights to do certain things. For example, I couldn't sign certain consent forms, and despite my husband being the biological father, as Natalie's just explained, he's not on her original birth certificate. So that that time is quite difficult. But the parental order process basically involves someone from the courts coming to basically check you out, check that the child's welfare is best suited with you. And in most cases, it's a pleasant enough experience. They come and meet you, chat to you, and what have you, and it goes through quite smoothly.
Now, Lisa was so completely full of joy because her baby had just been born and was very optimistic about how her relationship with Jane would go on and on. How easy actually is it, Kim? I think Mimi is now 3, to keep those kind of relationships going.
Mimi's just coming up 2, and in those 2 years, we have sort of email conversations, telephone conversations, although they're less now, obviously, because we're not sort of in the throes of everything and life's gone back to normal. We've all gone back to work, for example, myself and our surrogate. But text messages with her and her family are practically on a daily basis. And I want that to be the case. I always want Mimi to know that there was this amazingly strong, generous, kind-hearted woman who decided to put her life completely on hold for what amounts to probably about a year, really, for us. I never forget that amazingly generous thing she's done.
Natalie, how might this problem be got over, this question of lack of evidence at the time of the birth and the need for maternity leave? Because while surrogacy is considered unofficial, there are rules, like you're not allowed to offer payment, you can pay expenses. There are rules which do tell people what they can and can't do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the problem is that the legal process is very back-ended at the moment, so it all happens after the birth, and sometimes quite a few months after the birth. And I think what we need to do is bring that forwards so that there is some kind of process earlier on, so that we could then create some system for claiming leave. Now, I mean, that could either, as Kim was saying, happen, fairly quickly after the birth, or ideally it would happen before. So, I mean, I would like to see ideally some kind of pre-birth process, either involving the courts so that parental responsibility is reassigned before the birth, or if we didn't want to go that far, at least having some kind of formal system for setting up the arrangement and acknowledging that there was at least an intention for this to be a surrogate pregnancy and for the baby to be handed over.
Often, Natalie, people do express distaste and concern about this. Supposing the birth mother changes her mind and wants to keep the baby, how do we get over the question of exploitation, that one woman is using another woman to have her baby? How do we get over those questions?
Well, absolutely, and they're very important questions to consider. I mean, our law at the moment very carefully protects the right of the surrogate mother to change her mind if that's what she wants to do. So, for example, she can't consent to the parental order for at least 6 weeks after the birth, which is similar to a woman giving a child up for adoption. But, we need to look at these things sort of in the round and understand how the law works for these families, because a great many surrogacy arrangements go through very positively. And this period of uncertainty after the birth affects the surrogate parents as much as it affects the intended parents in many ways. Surrogate mothers are often concerned about them being left quite literally holding the baby, where they have full legal responsibility for this child who they had intended to give to someone else. So the difficulty works both ways. We're not just talking about benefiting the intended parents here. I mean, I do think we need to balance the rights of everyone involved very carefully, but this is something that needs to be looked at very sensitively.
Well, Natalie Gamble and Kim Palmer, thank you both very much.